Welcome to the art of precision on Gillette World Sport. Coming up today, we get a lesson in downhill mountain biking. Take a tour of one of the world's best custom-built MMA training facilities. And get set for the Athletics World Championships.
Now I'm among the greats that I've really worked so hard to get among.
First up on Gillette World Sport, we reflect on an unrivaled career with Usain Bolt as he prepares to race for the final time. With 11 World Championship gold medals and 8 Olympic titles, Usain Bolt will soon retire as the most decorated sprinter in history. He'll also leave behind 3 world records with best ever times in the 100 and 200 metres, as well as the 4x100 metre relay. Having failed to make it out of the heats at the Olympics in Athens, Bolt won his first major medals, 2 silvers, at the 2007 World Championships in Japan. A year later, in August 2008, he stepped inside the Bird's Nest Stadium at the Olympic Games in Beijing for the men's 100-metre final.
Set.
It's a clean start. Here they come. Powell has started well, as has Thompson in red. Well, here comes Usain Bolt. Bolt sprinting ahead. He's leaving them behind. It's Olympic gold for Usain Bolt.
When I crossed that finish line in Beijing, it was just joy because it was the hardest I've ever worked in my entire career, I think. And to get that first gold medal, it was a joy, you know what I mean? My coach just said I could have run faster, but at that time, all I wanted was to win. And I did break the world record then also. So for me, I just look at that moment as my first gold medal, you know what I mean? I don't look at it as a change of sport in any way.
At Bolt's side from the start has been his manager, Nugent N.J. Walker. The pair first met as classmates at school and have been close friends ever since.
Growing up with Usain as a child, he was a lot of fun. Always making everybody smile, enthusiastic, having fun. Same personality you see on the track today or in his interview, that has always been him. In Beijing, nobody expected it. And then he decided to tell the world that in order for me to be great, I need to do it again. And him able to win the 200 meters in London after all that his experience, the setback and losing at his trials. And I know how much he loved the 200 meters. He always says the 100 meters for the fans. I know how much it meant for him, and that was so special for me also. Usain told the world that he wants to be remembered as one of the greatest sportsmen ever. Not just a track and field. He wants history to say Usain Bolt is just as great as Muhammad Ali, or when those names are mentioned, he's mentioned among it. And the fact that I was able to go to Rio after being injured, after withdrawing from his trials, after spraining his ankle, missing 2 months of training, for him to show up to Rio and dominate the way he did, it was special. It was just special.
Bolt's final professional races will take place this August at the World Athletics Championships in London, giving the sporting world a last chance to see one of its most iconic figures in action.
What makes me unique is that I'm different when I'm at the line, you know what I mean? I'm more energetic, I'm fun, I'm just a great person, you know what I mean? I've changed the game, so it just makes me different. What do I view as my legacy? For me, just all the years of determination and hard work just show the struggle that I've been through and what I've accomplished. And now I'm among the greats that I've really worked so hard to get among.
A young man that never doubted himself. I always believed, even when they said 6'5" athlete shouldn't be running 100 meters. A young man that when they say you shouldn't be enjoying yourself the way you're enjoying yourself on the track, he said, no, this is who I am. I'm going to be me, and I'm going to show the world who I am. And I think that's a legacy that will last with us for a lifetime.
In Bolt's place, a new generation of sprint stars have already started to emerge, each looking to take his place at the pinnacle of the sport. Whether any will ever surpass his record-breaking feats remains to be seen.
Anything's possible. That's my motto, you know what I mean? Anything's possible. So it's all about if somebody wants to be greater than me. If there's a kid that's watching me and decide that I want to be greater than Usain Bolt, and he has the drive, he has the talent, then you never know. So we'll see.
Time now to take a look at the stories making the social headlines. John Jones was in a relaxed mood before he defeated Daniel Cormier for the light heavyweight title at UFC 214. Diving world champion Tom Daley tried his hand at gymnastics, training with Olympic medalist Niall Wilson. Golfers Ian Poulter and the legendary Jack Nicklaus exchanged irons for ice hockey sticks at the Canadian Open.
Is that easy?
There was also sports swapping between the NFL and the Premier League. Odell Beckham Jr. practiced his keepy-uppy skills, while England striker Harry Kane nailed this 50-yard field goal. X Games silver medalist Logan Martin took to the sky as he shared some of his tricks from a mega ramp in Australia. Basketball star Steph Curry nailed this perfect alley-oop dunk. The setup provided courtesy of his wife, Aisha. Italian footballer Mario Balotelli was enjoying himself ahead of the new season. He took on a dizzy penalty challenge and failed. And finally, college football running back Darius Geis demonstrated his 10-pin bowling skills with a pair of audacious trick shots. We're in the saddle now as we dissect the intricacies of downhill mountain biking over New Zealand's epic trails.
We are in the Craigieburn Forest Park, which is just out of Christchurch in New Zealand. We've got the Southern Alps on our doorstep. This is a great place to come riding. Downhill mountain biking, when you ride together, sometimes you can just push yourself more than what you would normally. I think I probably first met Sam about 2002. Met through racing. We weren't friends when we were younger because we were competing against each other the whole time.
We're young rivals together, and then over the last couple of years we kind of like to ride a lot together. We get to go to these awesome locations, and like most people probably just hike up there and then they have to hike back down. We get to kind of suffer on the way up, and then you've got the reward on the way down. Downhill mountain biking, most people think you're just going straight down a hill and it doesn't seem like much, but it's a vary of all terrains, rock, grass, dirt, mud, everything you could think of, and you start from one point from the top of the hill and then you work your way down, so you've got corners, jumps. What we're doing today was more like trail bike stuff, so it can be flat, can be steeper. We got pretty good conditions, so it was a little bit boggy, muddy, but so grippy, and yeah, it was kind of like, for me, it's like the best conditions you can ride in.
There's got some amazing trails out here in the native and the alpine environment. You get such an amazing broad mix of like really open tussocky sort of areas and some amazing just native beech forests. And you get some really cool steep stuff and then some great just sort of flatter, flowier sections of trail, so it gives you a massive variety. Technique on a mountain bike, especially for downhill, like you need to be quite a skilled rider because you encounter so many different types of tracks, and you know, sometimes one weekend you'll be at a race and it'll be hot and dry and dusty, and then the next weekend it can be completely muddy and wet and cold, and it's a whole different skill set to ride that. So you really need to have that deep kind of skill set to be able to be an all-rounder for every kind of track. You get a big variation between people, like you get a lot of different styles and people ride the bikes differently, but at the end of the day it doesn't really matter. You can be, you know, look as goofy as you want, but if you're going the fastest, then that's going to win at the end of the day.
The suspension and the setup and your bike and gelling with that bike is probably one of the main keys, because if you feel good on your bike, then like you feel like you're Superman, you can do anything. And if it's not working with the bike and you end up fighting it, and then you seem to crash a lot easier. So when everything's working your way and your bike's working well and you're having fun riding, then it just seems like you can win races easily.
Obviously, because you're just primarily, your tracks are all down, you don't need as big of a gear range for a start. So generally we start by dropping from like 11 gears down to 7. So that just means you've got a sort of short amount of gears that you don't need to be changing gears all the time. The bikes are a lot bigger travel suspension wise. The downhill bike will be 8 inches. Suspension travel, that just helps the big impacts, because obviously your bike's a bit bigger and you're just riding things a lot faster and a lot harder, so that bigger suspension just helps take those impacts and survive some of the bigger drops and jumps. Mountain biking, it hooked me from quite a young age. Just the adrenaline and the enjoyment of trying to push myself to go faster, and like I love the training to try and get fitter and trying to ride stuff better, and it's just this whole package. Sam always pushes me, and I like to think I can push him a bit as well, maybe sometimes.
Ever since school, it was just like all I wanted to do was mountain biking, and now I'm here, and yeah, I'm pretty lucky. It's the best sport in the world, I think.
Now we're in Iceland to get a tour of one of the best MMA gyms in the world with UFC welterweight Gunnar Nelson.
We're in the middle of a rock right now. That's our gym. It's about 3,000 square meters, which is pretty big. Yeah, this is like probably the biggest and the nicest MMA gym in the world. You know, it's definitely one of them. From where we were, like 2005, just renting like a tiny little place from a judo club to opening up this place of our own with probably about 2,000 people training here. It's amazing, you know. It used to be a bowling hall, actually. But downstairs, we actually used the bowling track. We used a lot of the wood from that to build floors that we use now down in the jiu-jitsu room and MMA room. We also have a bar here and a barber shop. My aunt has a nice salon as well, and I've always gotten my hair cut there, but she's really good as well. So I'm still my beard a few times. I didn't pick this picture, but this is a pretty intense one. It's right in the action, you know. I just hit him with the left hand, and I'm about to hit him with that right hammer right there. He's not liking it. There's this place here where we do the cardio, the Viking conditioning classes, kettlebells and all that kind of stuff. And downstairs is like a gym, you know, with treadmills and weights and all that kind of stuff. Jiu-jitsu room, MMA room, yoga room. We have physiotherapy. Yeah, it does have everything. So this is the main MMA training area. Here we have the training boxing ring. In here you can do your pads, you can do sparring with boxing gloves, you do kickboxing. And then we have all this area here for, you know, people training, partnering up. And then usually the guys who are fighting or have a fight coming up, they'll get to use the cage. It's actually 2 feet smaller than the UFC cage, which is 32. I do most of my training in here. We go in here and then somebody outside closes the door, puts the little metal thing in, and then there's no going out. For most people when they come in here, they're like, I didn't realize it was this big. You know, people think it's a lot more compact, a lot smaller, you know. But you can actually have plenty of room to dance around, and you have to be quite good to corner somebody off. You know, it's not like in the boxing ring there's corners. Here it's an octagon, so like it's easier to kind of maneuver away, but then you can press somebody against the cage as well, which is the good part, you know. Same mattresses, same surface, Same kind of floor that kind of bounces a little bit, gives a little bit. If you're doing them big throws, you know, you want to keep the fight going. You don't want to minimize the injury. A perfect little thing to just throw a couple of guys in and close it, and you know, have a blast. This is what we use for sparring, you know, in here, because it's safe and it's the same as you're fighting. So I will do some of the pad work and some technical stuff here, obviously using the techniques against the cage and on the floor as well. I like the surface. Sometimes the mattresses can get a bit slippery. You're sweating and then you go to the ground and maybe your top's off like we do when we're fighting. So it gets really slippery, but here you can feel it's like a different kind of surface. If it gets wet, it's okay, it doesn't get slippy. So I like training here, you know. This is the little arena where I fight in, so this is where I like to do most of my training. Yeah, well, we started off as a MMA gym, and we still are, and a lot of the emphasis is on MMA. But now we have mobility training classes, we have strength and conditioning classes. Some are more based on, you know, mobility or recovery. Some are more based on just getting in that really good shape. We basically have everything now. I mean, probably the smallest amount of people do MMA. They actually do mixed martial arts. Now, we have a lot of people doing jiu-jitsu and grappling and stuff like that, but not a lot of people like to get punched in the face. That's a fact.
Next up, we're in Berlin, Germany for the 11th round of this year's Longines Global Champions Tour.
A narrow point difference at the top of the ranking set the scene for a competitive weekend as Germany's capital city made its debut on the Tour circuit. A challenging course saw some of the Tour's best riders clocking up unexpected faults, and only 3 riders made it through to the final jump-off. Leopold van Asten of the Netherlands set the early pace. 8 faults, however, meant he would have to accept 3rd place. This left the top spot open to a home win with only 2 German riders still to jump. Simone Blum was the first of the 2 to enter the ring on her horse, DSP Alice.
This is a great mare, this is. This is an out-and-out jumper. What a lovely mare, come on. Up, good girl, well done.
Double clear in the 5-star Grand Prix of Berlin on the Longines Global Champions Tour in 41:01. Simone Blum. Remember that name.
With Blum and the home crowd overjoyed at her result, final rider Christian Ullmann, also of Germany, would need a clean run to take the win.
Now, this long run. They've all got to come 6 up there.
And he's a tiny bit up on the clock.
Yeah, and he's got another good turn there. If he leaves this double up, this vertical up, this is your winner. 41:01.
He goes out wide but floors it.
And he's got it. Oh, only just.
Ullmann's masterclass saw the clock stopped at 40.56 seconds, placing him on top of the podium, meaning the German crowd could celebrate a 1st and 2nd place. The championship now heads to its 12th stop of the year and another debut city in London.
Finally this week, we paddle out around the world in memorial of surf pioneer Jack O'Neill. Driven by his desire to surf longer in the icy waters of San Francisco Bay, the late Jack O'Neill has been credited with the creation of the first modern wetsuit back in the 1950s. This year, over 3,500 surfers all around the world have been paddling out in celebration of his life.
I used to work downtown in San Francisco, and it would get so screwed up, I'd come out and I'd jump in the ocean and I'd feel all right again. You just get one wave and everything's okay.
I knew Jack O'Neill. I knew a man who was sharp, inquisitive. He'd want to know the where, when, how, why, not just the what. an adventurer who charted his own course through life. But how do you map a man's life? How do you know him? By the work he does. In the great American tradition, he built a business, put the family name on it. He could see a future. I knew a man that changed the world, the way it felt. He was all about detail. The three most important things in life: surf, surf, and surf. And he never lost that connection to the water. He'd paddle out and float. New ideas, new designs, new concepts. A rubber philosopher. His ethos? Life is good.
First thing I think with Jack O'Neill is a pioneer. Someone who heart led him down this road that in turn really changed the sport of surfing. I love the quote of like, "That's great, Jack. You know, you're gonna build these wetsuits, 5 guys on the beach are gonna buy them and you'll be out of business." It's just wild to think of what the wetsuit has done, how many people's lives it has changed.
I think the thing I admire most about his legacy is finding a way to make a passion as a living. So he's turned surfing to something that he loves doing on the side and into a job and can revolve his whole life around it, which is a pretty amazing feat, especially back in that day. Guys like Jack have made it all possible for the rest of us to really pursue it as a career.
The wetsuit cracked open the door, and what I would call Eco 101 is the most important thing is to get people interacting with nature and falling in love with it and then wanting to protect it. And if you look at it through that lens, Jack has created millions of ocean lovers who then turn into people that want to protect the ocean, and I would thank him for that.